Yes.
which I loved that she said that on the day. And that's always inspiring to think, well, let's make up some more. We should have a conversation as well about other stories that maybe she wants to tell that we can tell together.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. And I will pass on the message to her. I'm sure she'll be
Great.
really thrilled to work with you again. Hello, what's up, everyone？ 欢迎来到今天的 Keep Going， 我是 Leon。今天这一集呢，我们将会讨论 The Most Iconic 世界级的摄影师 Jason Bell。如果你对他的生活以及他的拍摄有兴趣的话，那就 please keep watching。
Hi, how you doing?
How are you?
Good. I mean, strange time, but getting busy again. So it's good to be back. I'm shooting today, shooting last week. So yeah, things are starting again.
Okay, so what's happening? Where are you right now?
So I'm in London right now, where I've spent all of lockdown.
Okay.
And so I have not been on an aeroplane since March, which is a little strange.
Same here.
And so I did a shoot down in the countryside last week, and then I was shooting in the studio today for a charity project, and we'll see what comes up next.
Today is a special day. The campaign with bingbing.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
I'm very happy.
And very nice of her to repost it. So I will do the same.
Do you have anything to say to her?
Thank you so much for reposting it. I hope it's an inspiration for us to do more together.
Absolutely.
Let's do it again. I remember one thing I remember about the shoot is I remember her on the day saying to you, and you translating for me, it's like he's telling stories, he's making up these characters.
Yes.
Which I loved that she said that on the day, and that's always inspiring to think, well, let's make up some more. We should have a conversation as well about other stories that maybe she wants to tell that we can tell together.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, and I will pass on the message to her. I'm sure she'll be really thrilled to work with you again. It's great.
Lovely.
So when we talk about working with different artists, have you noticed a big difference between working with the Western artist versus a Chinese artist? What do you see the biggest difference?
Funnily enough, I would almost say the opposite. The things I really notice are the similarities.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot to do with when you're working with people who are really at the top of their profession. I'm lucky in that the kind of people I tend to ask, tend to be asked to photograph are, very much, the most successful actors or the most successful musicians, and that's obviously, a privilege of my position. But so they have something in common, I think, which is obviously their talent. The fact there's a reason that they've sort of climbed to the top of the mountain. So I guess. It's more for me the things that I notice are in common, the professionalism, the talent, often very beautiful.
Yes.
That kind of goes without saying.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that particularly people like that often it's more exciting for them to be talented than to be beautiful. They don't necessarily want to be told you're so beautiful, because maybe that wasn't something they did.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I like photographing people who've done something, and I think it's why I've gravitated towards photographing actors and writers and musicians and politicians rather than models, say, because I'm very interested not just in the way people look, but in what they do with their life and what they say.
Yeah.
And I mean, to some extent, the world has changed in that a lot of models now are doing other things. There's lots of sort of charitable work and climate awareness, and so I think that's become a good thing where fashion models particularly are encouraged now to be personalities rather than just wear the clothes and stand there.
Right.
I think that's the power of social media has caused that change, and it's been a good thing for them.
Absolutely. So out of all your work, many years of career, which is your most challenging, difficult project?
I would say it's very often the challenges are sort of the things you can't control, like the weather, for instance, or the temperature, or I tend to work a lot on location, and so that means I want big dramatic scenes and mountains and cityscapes, and that will mean sometimes that you get situations which are beyond your control. And funnily enough, one of the most difficult shoot I ever did was the Chinese opera singer Li Pingzhang.
Okay, wow.
And I went to photograph her near the quite near the Mongolian border, on towards the end of the Great Wall of China.
Okay.
And I picked the location on the basis that there was a beautiful range of mountains, and you could see all these mountains, and it was beautiful. It was really, really spectacular location.
Yeah.
And it was March. And they said, the weather will be fine. And, as you can imagine, opera singers don't really like hanging around in the cold because it's not good for their voice.
Yeah.
And we get there, and it was a snowstorm, and you just couldn't see anything. And, I had an assistant with me in a little jacket and Converse shoes, not dressed for the weather. And the snow was so bad, we couldn't even drive to the set. So we had to hire a camel to take her to set, which is not something I've ever had to do before. And she was brilliant because she just got on this camel and didn't make a fuss. And I was like, look, we've got this van and everything, but we can't use it because the snow's so deep. And I remember in that situation, you can often think, you panic a little bit and think, oh, I'm not going to get anything. This isn't what I planned. I'm not going to get the shot. Yeah. And funnily, this was a campaign for the Royal Opera House using the best.
I remember those. Yeah.
Using the best opera singers and ballet dancers all around the world.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be one of my favourite shots from the campaign. Yeah. So, you should never despair. You have to always say, try and turn the negative into a positive.
That's right. And I almost feel like you need to have almost like a documentary team following you, to document all the behind the scenes stuff. Because I feel like people are very interested to see that kind of stuff, like people don't see, right? They only see the beautiful image, perfect, but they don't know how much trouble and how difficult it is to get this kind of image. So
that's definitely true. And also I think that now, especially with computers, people tend to think, oh, so what did you do? Did you just shoot them in a comfortable studio and then, retouch it all together? And, that campaign particularly, we really did go to all those places and it was all done in camera.
Yeah.
And, because I grew up using film on big plate cameras, before Photoshop existed. I'm old enough that Photoshop didn't exist and you couldn't do everything digitally. Yeah. And so, I learned you had to get it right in camera. You had to light it right. You had to go there, and you had to put up with the weather and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's, I don't regret that. I think that's been an important part of my training, if you like. The craft of what I do. Yeah.
So, am I right to say you still believe the traditional photography versus the more digitalized, like a Photoshop and effects and all that?
I think they're tools, and the tools are useful, and I will use them. So I will use Photoshop, and I do actually mostly shoot with a digital camera now because you can't tell the difference, and it means I don't have to bother scanning the next. What I don't really do though is sort of try and do things in Photoshop that maybe you couldn't do in camera. So I use it to enhance, if you like, and there are things that have become easier with digital.
Mm-hmm.
And, for instance, if you wanted to do a beautiful landscape in the old days, I might say, well, there's a lamppost over there that's going to spoil the picture, so I have to frame it differently. Whereas now I would say, well, that's still the direction I want to shoot in, and I'll just take the lamppost out afterwards.
Got it.
So I think the way I see it is it's offered me more creative freedom, but I don't want to rely on it as, if you like, I don't want it to be the creative idea. I want me to have the creative idea, and then I use the tools available to better express the idea that I've had. In the same way, I think that people sometimes ask, well, what camera do you use? What lights do you use?
That's my question to you too.
As if somehow, if they use the same camera or the same lights, they might take the same pictures as me. And in a way, I don't really like cameras. They're kind of annoying. But the important thing is to have the idea in your head. And the best camera in the world and the best lights in the world won't make a good picture. A good picture is really, my definition of a good picture is a good idea well executed. So you want a good enough camera, and you want the lights, and you want the tools to exercise the idea correctly, but you've still got to have a good idea underneath it. And I think in that way, like we were saying before, telling stories. If you've got a good story to tell, or something interesting to say, that's what will make, a good picture.
Got it. So before you go on site to film, to shoot a good big shoot, do you have anything visualized in your mind prior you go on a shoot, or you just kind of go with the flow?
Very much so. So we come up with ideas beforehand. and then talk about the ideas. And I'll usually have several ideas. The one thing I would say to that is that sometimes there are various different things, like the idea that your favorite idea beforehand isn't necessarily the best idea, or it doesn't work. And I think you have to be on the shoot. You have to be flexible to
open-minded.
say, okay, that's not quite working, or even better, something better comes along. So for instance, like the story I told before, where I didn't plan it to be snowing in terrible weather, and I wouldn't. I wouldn't want that because it makes for a very difficult shoot, and everyone's cold and uncomfortable. But then when it is snowing, you respond to that and say, okay, well, that kind of looks amazing, so let's go with that.
Yes. So many people know about you, especially from China. They know you work with the royal family. Of course, it's such a big story. So can you share a little bit, like, what was your experience like working with the royal family? Like, what were you feeling at that moment?
In a shoot like that, I approached it very much thinking one of my main goals here is to be calm, and not get very wrapped up in the whole, it's the royal family. At the end of the day, I've met lots and lots of famous people, and they are just people like everybody else. And I remember going to Clarence's house where we did the shoot and meeting the staff there, and them saying, that they'd had experiences where some people, were so nervous to meet the royal family that they kind of fainted.
Wow.
And I was just laughing and said, that's not going to happen with me, don't worry. And I really took that to be, okay, part of this is to just, be calm about it. And in some ways, I suppose, it would be easy not to be calm because I wasn't just photographing, one or two members of the royal family. It was the whole family.
The whole family, yes.
And I think, great respect to, to coming at that shoot was, meeting them beforehand and saying, and then them relaxing me and saying, this is how we're going to do it. I thought it was really good that, Kate and William had said beforehand, come and have a cup of tea with us.
Oh, wow.
So we chatted, and that makes them very
really? Okay.
Like any other people. And I would say this is true on any shoot that I do. It's very good to talk to the artist beforehand and have a conversation about what are we trying to do here, what do we want to say, and in that situation I might say, here are my ideas, this is how I'm approaching it. Does that fit with what you want to do? And that that can save a lot of heartache on the day,
right?
When you all feel like you're on the same page in the beginning, rather than springing it on somebody on the day and kind of go, well, I was thinking of this, and they go, well, that wasn't what I was thinking,
right?
So, which I think speaks to, if you like, my bigger approach to all my work, which is that it's quite collaborative. I don't try and trick anybody when I photograph them or try and convince them to do something they're not comfortable doing. I might try and push them out of their comfort zone and say, look, there's this thing here and I think it would be good and it would be an interesting thing for you to do. But I would never trick them. I would explain, this is why I think it's interesting for you to do, and if you want to do it, let's do it together. So in that sense, it's very collaborative.
How do you see somebody become from like an unprofessional photographer and develop into a professional career? What they should do to take the steps to become the professional photographer?
I mean, the sort of the shortest answer is you just keep taking pictures. The more you take pictures, the better you get at it. The more your innate sense, your sixth sense of how to do it develops. And I think you're working on your own style, and you're working out what stories you want to tell and how you want to say it. And obviously, the more you work, the more you meet people, you learn about the business. I think having a point of view is very important, and the more you take pictures, the more you learn, what you want to take pictures of. So you're not necessarily taking the pictures that people told you to take, or the pictures that you think are fashionable or cool. You're taking, the really successful photographers, in my view, they have a point of view. They have something to say, and they say that thing. So they're not just saying, "Oh, I'll do this because it's cool or because that's what people want." They're artists expressing a point of view. So I think the more you take pictures, the more you work out what your own point of view is. That's very important. And then there's the stuff like you learn more the technical side of it, how to talk to people and relate to them to get them to be comfortable being photographed. So I guess it's practice. I do view it as a craft, and the more you practice your craft, the better you are at it.
Practice, good. So have you thought about giving master classes?
It's something I've done a bit. I did a lecture series for the Royal Photographic Society all around the UK, and I've done a couple of Instagram things which are actually on my Instagram feed of taking questions from people. The problem I have at the moment is I'm so busy being a photographer.
Yes.
I sort of don't want to stop being a photographer and take lots of time teaching. And I kind of wonder, as I get older, maybe I won't want to travel so much. A lot of my work is on location, so it does require a lot of travel. So I think, maybe as I get older and I want to slow down a bit, I might say, now is a good time to teach more.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll have more to teach then because I'll have been doing it for longer.
Right.
I think in terms of teaching, I'll probably do more like Instagram live classes, and that works very well when people send me questions or write questions or send you questions and we do a list of questions.
Exactly.
That's something I could do where I'd say, okay, let's have 20 questions, say from just from Chinese viewers. We have a specific cultural interest there, and so then I just do an hour in an Instagram live. We're going to just talk to people in China and answer their questions.
So what's coming next?
Well, it's a strange time to ask that question because, of course, everything came to a halt rather sharply. And I thought it was an interesting time to just sort of actually be quiet and reflect, and that was okay. And obviously, it feels like things are picking up again.
Right.
I have got a big project on, but it kind of ground to a halt, and it's early on, so I don't really want to say what it is yet. But something is happening.
Okay.
And I hope with any luck, I'll make a book out of it and an exhibition.
Oh wow.
But that's something I'll probably start working on again later this year, early next year.
Okay.
And yet at this moment, it's about getting back out there and, carrying on with stuff.
I know you had one project with British Vogue, like the British Invasion America, or something like that.
Oh, it was for Vanity Fair.
For Vanity Fair.
I felt the Hollywood portfolio for Vanity Fair.
Right. So my idea, would that be cool? We team up with a magazine or something. We do an Asian version. We feature all the big Asian musicians,
absolutely,
entertainers.
And, I love doing portfolios. Portfolios is a really fun thing for me to do because, what quite often happens is my work can be quite kind of bitty, by which I mean, I'll do something on a Monday that is completely unrelated to something on a Thursday. So Monday could be a politician and Thursday is an actor, and they exist as individual pictures or a spread in a magazine. So it's quite nice if somebody says to you, well, I want you to do 20 or 30 pictures that are all related to each other, because you get to sort of play with themes across all the pictures, and there's back to my favorite thing always is ideas. You can have ideas that run across a portfolio, and that's very creatively satisfying to do, bodies of work or pictures that relate to each other and say something as a set. So, I mean, I would love to do that.
Great. So whoever is watching our interview, the big magazines, please reach out. So we're open for invitation.
Call this man and he will get in touch.
Exactly. We'll get all the big stars and we will do this. We'll make this happen. So is there any a Chinese artist you want to work with next?
It's interesting, the ones on my radar. Chris Wu is someone who I've been aware of for a while, and I think it would be you can always tell the people who are interested in playing with their own image.
Yes.
And have changed the way they look. And again, I'm repeating myself a bit, but it feels like have something to say.
Right.
So I feel like, and he's obviously very talented.
Yes.
So I feel like that's someone who, it's hard because I don't want to have favourites. It's not that there aren't lots of other people that I wouldn't want to photograph, but you do notice some people kind of catch your eye where you think, okay, that would be an interesting person to shoot.
Good. I do know Chris personally, so I will ask him.
Well, that's very fortunate.
So you know what? Just in the end, what do you have to say to our audience, like a Chinese audience or whoever supports you around the world? Anything you want to say to them?
Well, yeah, I'd like to come to China more and work more in China. I think that would be good. And, I'm glad you said the thing before about collaboration because, if I come to China to shoot more, Chinese actors and musicians, it's doubly good for me. One, it's a place that I've only worked a few times, not lots and lots of times.
Yeah.
And two, I then learn more about the country and the people, and that's, I'm quite inquisitive, which I think you need to be as a photographer. You want to find out, and you want to dig a little bit beneath the surface. Those are what make good pictures. So that would be interesting for me to come over more, and. I think also there's an exchange of information. If there's Chinese photography students who want to learn more, ask me questions by all means.
Again, thanks very much for your time. Thanks for watching. 如果你喜欢我们的内容，请点赞、分享、加关注。See you next time and keep going.